There are moments in life you never forget, moments that hit harder than anything you ever felt on a field, in a classroom, or in a home. Moments that don't ask permission. They just show up unannounced, uninvited, unavoidable. Life can change in one moment. And most people don't truly understand that until life shows them. We walk through our days thinking everything will go the way we planned. We set our goals. We map out our future. We create this picture in our minds of how things are supposed to look. But life doesn't follow our script. Life doesn't knock on the door and say, "Are you ready for a shift?" It moves how it wants, when it wants. And sometimes it takes only a single moment to rewrite everything you thought you knew. One moment can show up like a whisper, or it can crash into you like a storm. It can come in the form of a phone call you weren't expecting, a decision you almost did make, a challenge you didn't see coming, or a person you never thought you'd meet. And in that one moment, everything you thought was permanent can suddenly feel fragile. Everything you thought was guaranteed can suddenly feel temporary. You realize how quickly life can turn, how fast your comfort can be shaken, and how easily the things you took for granted can disappear or transform. The power of a moment isn't just in what happens to you. It's in what that moment demands from you. When life shifts suddenly, you are forced to see who you truly are beneath the goals, the confidence, and the routine. You're confronted with your real strength, your real values, your real character. You learn whether you can stand when standing hurts, whether you can trust when nothing makes sense, whether you can move forward when the road disappears in front of you. Life's unexpected moments aren't meant to break you. They're meant to expose you. They reveal what comfort had been hiding. Sometimes that one moment pushes you into a version of yourself you didn't know existed. Awakens something inside you, a hunger, a purpose, a fight, a fire. It forces you to let go of old plans and find a deeper meaning in the journey. You begin to realize that the life you imagined might not be the life you were meant to live. That a detour wasn't destruction, it was direction. That the thing you thought was the end might actually be the beginning of something far greater. And when you look back later, you see that a single moment transformed you in ways your old self never could have handled. The moment that once felt painful becomes the moment that made you stronger. The moment that hurt becomes the moment that healed. The moment that confused you becomes the moment that clarified everything. That's the beauty and the mystery of life. One moment can shake your world, but it can also shape your destiny. Life can change in one moment, and that truth is not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. It's meant to remind you to live fully, to love deeply, to give your all, and to stay grateful for every breath. Because you never know when the moment that changes everything will arrive. And when it does, it won't ask for permission. It will ask for your strength. Adversity reveals who you truly are, because nothing exposes a person's character like struggle. When everything is going right, when the path is smooth, when the applause is loud and the compliments are flowing, it's easy to look strong, confident, and disciplined. But ease doesn't shape identity. Comfort doesn't develop character. The real version of a person shows up when life gets heavy, when challenges hit without warning, when the plan falls apart, and when the world stops cheering. That is the moment when the mask comes off and the truth steps forward. Adversity doesn't care about your image, your reputation, your titles, or your achievements. It presses past all of that, goes straight to your core. It asks you questions you can't avoid. How bad do you want it? What are you willing to endure? What do you truly believe about yourself? Will you stand firm or collapse under pressure? Will you choose faith or fear? Will you fight or fold? Adversity strips away the surface level confidence and reveals the substance or the lack of it hidden within. When life hits you hard, the real battle isn't outside, it's inside. It's in the thoughts you entertain, the doubts you fight, the choices you make when no one is watching. Some people crumble because they built their identity on things that were never meant to hold their weight, validation, comfort, talent, or circumstances. But others rise not because they feel strong, but because adversity forces them to discover the strength they didn't know they had. There's something powerful about being pushed to the edge. It introduces you to a deeper version of yourself, a version that can endure more, persist longer, and believe stronger than the person you used to be. Adversity builds clarity. It shows you who is really with you and who was only with you when it was easy. It reveals the difference between people who support you out of convenience and people who support you out of loyalty. It teaches you to value truth over appearance, substance over show, and resilience over perfection. It shifts your priorities. Suddenly, the things you used to stress about no longer matter, and the things you used to overlook become the things you cling to. The beautiful part is that adversity not only reveals who you are, it shapes who you become. Every challenge carries a hidden opportunity to grow. Every struggle teaches a lesson that comfort cannot. When you walk through fire, you come out refined. When you endure pressure, you come out stronger. When you survive storms, you come out wiser. You start to understand that adversity wasn't sent to destroy you, but to develop you, to stretch your faith, expand your capacity, and strengthen your foundation. And the more adversity you face, the more confidence you build, not in the world, not in circumstances, but in the quiet knowing that no matter what comes, you have the strength to rise again. That's the revelation adversity brings, not the discovery of your limits, but the discovery that you can push far beyond them. Greatness is built in the dark because the moments that truly shape a person are rarely witnessed, applauded, or celebrated. People see the results, the success, the confidence, the strength, but they don't see the silent hours that came before all of that. They don't see the early mornings when no one else was awake, the late nights where everyone else was sleeping, the sacrifices made without announcement, the discipline practiced without an audience. The world loves the spotlight, but greatness is forged in the shadows, where there is no noise to distract you and no praise to comfort you. In the dark, you are left alone with your doubts, your fears, your insecurity, and your dreams. There is no validation, no applause, no confirmation that you're on the right path. Just you and the work. That is where strength is developed. That is where discipline is tested. That is where resilience is born. When you're pushing yourself not because someone is watching, but because you refuse to settle for less than what you're capable of. That is when you start becoming something powerful. The dark is a place where most people quit because it is uncomfortable. It demands consistency without reward, effort without recognition, patience without immediate results. But the dark is also the place where champions grow. It's the place where you fight the battle between who you are and who you're becoming. It's where you learn to choose growth over comfort, effort over excuses, and purpose over pleasure. Every rep you do alone, every moment you push through resistance, every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you're building the foundation the world will eventually admire. People love to talk about destiny, but destiny doesn't arrive fully formed. It is built piece by piece through the unseen work. It's shaped during the nights, when you practice in silence, the days when you study alone, the hours when you grind while everyone else is relaxing. Those dark moments refine you. They sharpen your focus, strengthen your mind, and toughen your spirit. They teach you how to keep going when nothing around you suggests progress. They prepare you for the weight of success long before success arrives. Greatness requires isolation. It requires you to separate yourself from the noise, the distractions, and the expectation. When you step into the dark, you find clarity. You learn what matters and what doesn't. You understand the difference between wanting something and committing to it. You begin to realize that your biggest competition isn't the person next to you. It's the version of yourself that keeps choosing comfort over growth. And when the world finally sees your greatness, they might call you lucky or gifted, but you'll know the truth. You'll know the hours you spent working when no one cared. You'll know the moments when you were on the edge of giving up but chose to keep going anyway. You'll know that the spotlight didn't make you, it only revealed what the darkness had already built. Purpose is stronger than circumstance, because when a person understands why they are here, what they are meant to contribute, and what they are called to become, no situation, setback, or season of hardship can stop them. Circumstances change like weather, one moment sunny, the next moment stormy. They rise and fall, shift and turn, and often arrive without warning, but purpose is steady. Purpose is the anchor that holds you together when everything around you feels unstable. It gives direction when the path is unclear, strength when the load feels heavy, and hope when life feels overwhelming. Circumstance may influence the journey, but purpose determines the destination. When you know your purpose, you're no longer controlled by what's happening around you. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop being driven by fear or pressure and start being guided by conviction. Circumstances can delay you, distract you, or even knock you down, but they cannot destroy someone who has decided to live with intention. Purpose makes you persistent. It makes you resilient. It gives you a reason to get up when life tries to keep you down. People with purpose don't quit because quitting would mean turning away from something bigger than themselves. Life will always bring challenges, Unexpected problems, painful losses, and difficult seasons are unavoidable. But purpose turns those struggles into fuel. It transforms pain into perseverance, obstacles into opportunities, and setbacks into strategy. When circumstances try to weaken you, purpose steps in and says, keep going. There's more in you. It reminds you that every hardship has a lesson. Every delay has a meaning, and every roadblock has a way around it. Purpose doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it changes how you face it. Instead of feeling defeated, you start feeling determined. Purpose also shifts your perspective. When you are anchored in something meaningful, you don't misinterpret temporary hardships as permanent endings. You don't let frustration blind you or discouragement define you. You begin to see that circumstances are simply scenes in the story, not the whole story itself. You begin to understand that the situation you're in right now might be preparing you for the place you're meant to reach later. And because of that, you stop being controlled by the fear of what is happening and start trusting the process of who you are becoming. People with purpose don't move only when conditions are perfect. They move because their calling is bigger than their comfort. They don't wait for the storm to end. They learn to walk through it. They don't shrink when life gets heavy. They grow stronger under the weight. Purpose makes you unstoppable because it roots your heart in something deeper than circumstance. It becomes the light that guides you through the darkness, the voice that pushes you forward when you feel stuck, and the foundation that holds you steady when the world feels shaky. Circumstances may create pressure, but purpose creates power. And once a person discovers that power, nothing external can hold them back. They rise not because the path is easy, but because purpose refuses to let them stay where they are. You don't control the event, but you control the response. And that truth becomes clear the moment life hits you with something you never expected. You can plan your days, set your goals, and map out your future. But life has its own way of interrupting even the best plans. Events come without warning: loss, disappointment, failure, betrayal, setbacks, sudden changes, moments that shake you and leave you breathless. You don't get to choose when they happen, how they happen, or why they happen. But you always have a choice in how you respond. That response is what separates people who rise from people who crumble. The event is external, but the response is internal. The event might shake your world, but the response determines the direction of your life. The event can be painful, unexpected, or unfair, but the response is where your power lies. You may not control what someone says about you, but you control whether their words define you. You may not control the storm that comes into your life, but you control whether you stand, rebuild, or surrender. You may not control the moment you fall, but you control whether you stay down or rise again. The event introduces the battle, but your response determines the outcome. Life will always present you with things that try to break you, moments that test your patience, your faith, your character, and your strength. But the way you respond shows what you're made of. Some people spend their lives blaming the event, what happened to them, what they lost, who hurt them, what went wrong. They keep reliving the moment instead of rewriting their future. But others make a different decision. They take ownership of their response. They decide that even if the event wasn't their choice, the response will be. They refuse to give the event power over their destiny. Your response is where growth happens. When you face something difficult and choose patience over panic, strength over fear, effort over excuses, you're building a version of yourself that can handle more, endure more, and become more. The event might feel like it's slowing you down, but your response can turn that same event into the moment that matured you, sharpened you, and prepared you for the next level. The event may not have been in your control, but the meaning you attach to it is. You choose whether it becomes your excuse or your motivation. You also learn through your response that pain can be a teacher. Failure can be a motivator. Challenges can be turning points. Every response shapes your mindset, your habits, and your future. When you stop fighting the reality of what happened and start focusing on how you're going to move forward, you take back your power. You realize that circumstances can influence you, but they don't have the authority to define you. They don't get the final say. Your response does. You never know what events are waiting around the corner, but you always know what you can. Bring to them a resilient mind, a determined heart, and a spirit that refuses to break. That is where your freedom is. That is where your strength lies. You don't control the event, but you control the response. And that response can be the very thing that changes everything. Turn your setback into a platform, because what looks like the end of your story can actually become the beginning of your impact. Most people see setbacks as failure, as punishment, as proof that they weren't good enough or strong enough. But setbacks carry a hidden power. They are moments that challenge you to choose whether you'll stay hurt or grow stronger, whether you'll let the pain silence you or allow it to shape your voice. A setback can feel like life pushing you backward, but sometimes that backward pressure is the exact force that launches you forward into something greater than you ever imagined. A setback shows up when you least expect it. It stops your plans, interrupts your momentum, and shakes your confidence. It exposes the illusion that everything was under your control. But what it cannot take from you is your ability to rise. The moment you stop seeing the setback as a dead end and start seeing it as raw material, everything changes. Raw material can be turned into something powerful, meaningful, and transformational. That's where the platform begins. Your story, your experience, your pain, these become tools, messages, and lessons that someone else desperately needs. When you treat a setback as a platform, you're refusing to waste your struggle. You're choosing to use what happened to you to lift someone else up. You're using your hardship as a blueprint for hope. People connect with authenticity. They connect with someone who has walked through darkness and still found a way to stand in the light. Your setback gives you credibility in areas where others feel lost. It gives you a voice in rooms you never thought you'd enter. It gives you compassion, understanding, and wisdom that cannot be learned through comfort. A platform isn't always a stage. Sometimes it's the strength you offer your family. Sometimes it's the encouragement you give a friend who's going through what you survived. Sometimes it's the example you set just by refusing to break. People watch, people learn, people grow because you didn't quit. That alone becomes a platform. You show others what resilience looks like. You show them that pain doesn't have to end your purpose. You show them that the hardest chapters can become the most inspiring parts of your story. Turning a setback into a platform also transforms your identity. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, you begin to see yourself as a leader shaped by them. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what can this teach me? Who can this help? How can this prepare me for what's next? That shift is where transformation happens. That's where growth becomes real. You start building something out of the very thing that tried to break you. And as you rise, you begin to realize something powerful. The setback didn't stop your destiny, it shaped it. It carved out depth, resilience, strength, and perspective. It gave you a message. It gave you a mission. It gave you a platform to stand on, speak from, and live through. Because the moment you decide that your setback will not be wasted, it becomes the very foundation of your impact.